Hello. So I haven't made a video in a while, um, and it's not that I had nothing to say. It's just that I feel like YouTube videos and just talking about it are one of the worst ways to talk about Dhamma, because see, when the Buddha talked to people about Dhamma, it was usually in response to a question, or he got inspired by noticing something significant the person was doing, saying. Basically, the Dhamma is best delivered in conversation precisely because the whole point of the Eightfold Path is to sort of arouse disenchantment, right? And different people got different knots to untie. What I'm trying to say is there's no like one. The path is in seeing dukkha and becoming disenchantment, but there's no. The entryway is different depending on the person, because different views, different wrong views are obscuring right view. So for right view to arise, different wrong views have to be dismantled. And in a video format, best I can do is tackle common wrong views. And when I talk to a person, you can see the tone, so how much emotionally charged they are about certain things, in what direction. You see the direct clinging operating there, and then you can respond accordingly to ensure that the wrong view is corrected. Whereas if I just speak generally about the Dhamma, it could very easily be turned into a philosophy, adopted into a view, and basically serve becoming instead of cessation. So this is why I haven't made a video in a while, while still wanting to make videos, because every time, let's say I figure out what I'm gonna talk about, when it comes to the time of making the video, that inspiration usually already passed, and I'm not in the mood anymore. And whatever I do try to talk about, well, if that one specific person who has that one specific wrong view I'm addressing isn't watching, then it's just potentially doing the opposite of what I intended to do, which is help people see the dependent origination of things in real time, and see suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation. So yeah, that's the why. But still, when I kind of get going, like right now, I usually have things to say in the end. That's why I started recording and started the video with the explanation of why I haven't been recording videos, because I knew that if I get rolling, something's gonna come out. Now I've been in a couple of Buddhist communities on Discord and other platforms, just trying to see what people are genuinely practicing and talking about in these circles. And I've noticed that even within the Buddhist communities, people argue about views, people argue about what path is correct. People even dismiss the Buddha as in not being skillful, and that later masters were more skillful. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of philosophical debate and metaphysical speculation, not a lot of talk on causes, conditions. I'll give a simple example of a misconception. So a lot of people, even within Buddhist communities, they sort of posit that there is some sort of background behind experience, such as they call it Buddha nature, some call it true mind, the luminous mind, some call it awareness, some call it Brahma, Atman. Some people just equate all religions to be the same thing. Basically, they posit a background, they posit something that is responsible for everything in a way. And then they even attribute that the Buddha was teaching this because of later developments in Mahayana. People posit that Buddha taught some sort of true essence. And if you read the Nikayas, and also this, Nikayas historically are considered to be the earliest Buddhist texts, the most commonly attributed to the Buddha himself, the most verified. They're the backbone of Buddhism, but in modern Buddhist circles, most Buddhists don't even read the Nikayas. And then talk about how other paths surpass the Nikayas without even reading them. And the Nikayas are pretty unambiguous about this true self thing, as in there is no permanent, unchanging thing in experience. And Buddha nature would be such a thing. True mind would be such a thing. Basically, Buddha never spoke of these things in the Nikayas. What he spoke of is cessation, an ending of a process of suffering. That is what he spoke of. He did not speak of discovering your true self, your true essence, your true nature. Then another thing, people are focused on effects instead of causes, on appearance instead of roots. What I'm saying is they analyze what they see, while the Buddha analyzed why we see what we see. Do you understand? Like the Buddha said, there is forms and contact, right? And then we have eyes, and then we have eye consciousness. And when eye consciousness through eyes makes contact with form, we have perception, right? We see something. I didn't explain that the best, but my point was that the Buddha explained why we see. He didn't go into what we see, while other traditions and just in general people in spiritual communities talk about how you have to see your true nature. Basically, the main difference is people think enlightenment is insight based. You have one big insight and then you're enlightened. And they even think that's how the Buddha did it. While in the Nikayas, and what I personally trust to be the source of the Buddha's words, enlightenment is a process coming to an end. So you can have right view, you can see things as they really are, but all that is gonna do is starve the process. The process has to unwind. See, ignorance in Buddhism is not cognitive ignorance. It's not seeing the Four Noble Truths in the moment of dependent origination, which is when there is suffering, you see why it's arising in that moment. You abandon the cause, you see its cessation, you see the Third Noble Truth when the cause of suffering in the moment has been seen and abandoned. Through seeing, suffering ends, and that's the path. And it requires mindfulness, it requires attention, concentration, it requires investigation, and it's a slow process. And ignorance is just, as long as there's craving, as long as there's becoming, as long as there's clinging, there is still ignorance operating. Which means just every part of experience hasn't been sufficiently seen to be dukkha, right? So ignorance remaining is more of a seeing thing. You haven't seen through the whole illusion of value, not a insight-based shift. It's not instantaneous, it's a gradual weakening of ignorance, gradual deepening of unification of concentration, and a cooling down of formations. That's why Nibbana is extinguishment, because a process came to an end by non-engagement, because the mind learned its lesson. When the danger is seen, the escape is preferred to the gratification, because these three things are important. On every sensual experience that is pleasant, there is gratification. there is the danger, as in the anticipation before it is unpleasant, its temporariness and us trying to make it last is unpleasant, and our enjoyment of it causes more of such craving and such unpleasantries of maintenance to arise. And there is cessation. When conditions for that thing stop, so does the desire, so does the thing, whatever it may be, and that's the escape. So why do I believe the Nikas? Because I've seen many cessations happen and many arisings, and that is exactly how the Nikas describe it. Like, you see something arise due to being prompted by something, like when I look at my car, right? I make contact with it, my eyes, I see it, there's contact, and then there's a pleasant feeling and a perception arises, this is my car, and from that perception a mental formation, a subtle sense of ownership arises. And when I look away from my car, and I do tests like these because they're funny, I look away from my car, the feeling of ownership slightly persists due to the mental image of my car still persisting, but then when any contact with the perception of my car ends eventually, so does the feeling of ownership. It ceases, right? Same with suffering, right? The mind learns not to participate in things that cause suffering, and through that knowledge, the mechanism slowly starves. First, the options show themselves like the things that cause suffering, and they slowly become unappealing. The mind now, the option presents itself, but it does not grasp at them. And due to this tendency, the mind has learned not to grasp at these things, the things naturally eventually burn out. And that's cessation, nirvana. The condition for their arising has ended, their past momentum, past karma has exhausted itself, and they cannot re-establish themselves, and that is final liberation. So it's not a state, it's an ending of a process, and it's not some sort of background. The Buddha didn't teach some metaphysical truth. He taught suffering and its cessation through seeing, and it's a gradual training, a gradual path, and restraint is not forced. It is a natural consequence of seeing the danger and preferring the escape, cessation, instead of the gratification, which prolongs the problem. That's about it. I hope this helped anyone, and yeah, have a nice day.